Hello everyone, my name is David Foltz. I am a senior malacologist that works for Edge Engineering and Science, and today I'm going to be giving you a talk on a report on 2 sampling sites for freshwater mussels on the Meldahl Pool of the Ohio River, a comparison and discussion. So some quick basic background. Meldahl Pool is a 95-mile long pool on the Ohio River. It's situated between the Greenup Pool located upstream and the Markland Pool located downstream. It's bordered by Ohio and Kentucky. And historically, it's a very undersampled pool with very few recent records. So this plate is taken directly from Freshwater Mussels of Ohio, Waters et al. 2019. And as you can see, there's a disparity in what sites get sampled. Certain sites like the middle, which is the Scioto, receives a lot of sampling effort. And then other sites like the main stem Ohio, located along the backbone of West Virginia to the east, receives relatively little. So our sites are located down here between the 2 red arrows, and as you can see, there are some dots in between them, but not a lot, and a lot of these dots are actually located on the mouths of smaller tribs that feed into the Ohio there, so they're not all true big river surveys. So why the disparity? There's a wide range of reasons. Other areas receive more attention than others. First is proximity. How close is it located to a human population or the surveyors themselves? Areas located close tend to receive more attention. Next is diversity. Does it historically have a diverse mussel population, or does it only contain 1 or 2 species? People like to see all the different species available, so the areas with higher diversity will naturally receive more sampling effort over time. Need. Is there a pipeline project being installed, a bridge being built, potential installation for water intake or outfall? Does a species status assessment need conducted to fill in a knowledge gap? These all drive surveys. Time. Mussel surveys are typically very time intensive to go through, which drives up cost. The time is money, and the more time you spend on a survey, the more cost it takes to perform the survey. Then last is ease of access. So is it a small stream that has a kayak ramp that you can maybe launch from and snorkel within a half an hour? Or is it a large river site that the closest boat ramp is 5 miles from the site, and that plays into it a lot too. So quickly look at large river versus small. The difficulty, skill, and safety curve increases dramatically. Where in a small stream you could just go snorkel or view bucket, on a large river dive you need divers with higher dive certificates, a boat, a captain to drive the boat, specialty dive gear, and that all increases the cost and thereby drives away certain people that would typically do the surveys. And because of this, while you're out there, there's also a much larger safety factor. You constantly have to worry about barge traffic, party boats, jet skis, and then there's the water depth. If you're in 50 feet of water, you can't have that diver down there all day. You have to watch your dive tables. So it ramps up really quick. But stepping back from all that, it's really important to get good data when you're out there and given the opportunity. So in 2020, we had the opportunity. We had a project located on the middle pool near Vanceburg, and a project located on the upper pool near Wheelersburg. The middle pool project is in its infancy. We've done phase 1 and phase 2 surveys. Lots of transects. And then on the upper pool project, it's completed. We did grid searches for phase 1 and phase 2, and then we did moving transects for the salvage and relocation efforts. So for the methods, I don't want to get too much into the weeds over this. As there are 4 client projects, all the methods are laid out in the 2020 Ohio Mussel Survey Protocol. Middle pool project, we completed 63 transects that were 130 meters apiece for a total of 8,190 meters squared search. For the upper pool project, with 35 moving transects as well as the initial grid surveys, 3,764 meters squared. From this slide forward, you will notice photos in the lower left and right corners. These are photos from the different projects. Lower left will be middle pool, lower right will be upper pool. So results, middle pool project, 2,415 mussels of 20 live species with 3 additional species represented through dead shell. 0.29 mussels per square meter catch per unit effort, whereas the upper pool project, 984 mussels of 20 species for 0.26 mussels per square meter catch per unit effort. So let's compare the two sites. The middle project, located farther down from the upper lock and dam, makes sense that it will be a deeper section of river. It is. Primary habitat there is cobble with silt and lots of zebra mussel infestation. In the lower left, you can see a 3-horn wartyback. You can see all those zebra mussels. Our max depth on the project on our transects was 55 feet. And because of this, we had to use, even though we had the clarity, we had to use artificial lights. It is pitch black at the bottom. The upper pool project is much more shallow, slants and doesn't drop off nearly as fast, and the habitat is cobble gravel sand. It's clean swept. And even though we were 35 meters off the bank, we were still only in 15 feet of water. The clarity was so good that we actually did not need artificial light. We had plenty of sunlight and could see siphons and mussels easily. Just to jump back to the other project really quick, 35 meters off the bank, we were already in 30-some feet of water. So there's definitely a difference between the two sites. So now we'll go into the results. So there'll be like a scorecard for each site. And feel free to pause this if you want to look at it. We've gone over most of the stuff at the start. But big things, 0 live federal mussel species found at the middle project site. 8 state endangered species making up 8% of the total mussels, and 2 state threatened species making up 44%. Here the arrows indicate which is which. If you combine that, that means over 50% of the mussels we found are state listed in Ohio. Of special note, oddballs at the site, we found a kidney shell in 30-some feet of water. This species isn't typically located in the middle Ohio River, so that was unusual. Jumping to the next site, on the upper project site, again, 0 live federal species of mussels. We had 8 state endangered species for 16% and 2 state threatened species for 43%. And at this site, we're actually over 60% of the mussels we collected are state listed. Of special note at this site, we had pistol grips, which we found. Don't typically find those in the middle of the Ohio. And we were actually finding juveniles. The clarity and the sunlight were so great that you could actually see the juvenile siphons. So let's do a little bit of compare and contrast between the two sites. On the left, I have the counts for each site provided side by side for comparison, and on the right, I have relative abundance provided. So let's look at what species were exclusive to each site. For the middle site, we have nodulata, pteris, and fasciolaris. These were only found at the middle site, whereas at the upper site, we have chordatum, varicosa, and truncata, which were not found at the middle site. So let's do some relative abundance and see if there's a preference for sites, which there is. Pustulosa, a lot more abundant, a lot more common at the upper site, as is butterfly, lineolata. Cardium and ovata are much more prevalent at the upper site compared to the lower site. Recta, metanevra, and obviously varicosa. But if you look at the middle site, we have crassidens starts to creep up there, flava, Megalonias nervosa, Piolatus, QQ. So it's almost like the middle site would be our typical large river, slightly degraded site with a heavy amount of silt. You find these big deep water species there that you would typically expect. And then the upper site is a shallow and more clean swept. You find species that you typically find in these more clean swept portions of the larger rivers or in the medium-sized rivers. So in conclusion, Meldahl Pool currently supports a diverse and healthy population of mussels. Preliminary data suggests habitat preference for some species as shown by the relative abundance in comparison to the habitat. And these surveys can be compared to future surveys in the pool to show improvements or declines 10, 15, 20 years down the road. If someone else does another survey in these areas and wants to see if anything's improving or declining, they can look at these results and hopefully make a determination from that. And with that, thank you all for your time. I appreciate you listening to my talk, and with that, I will take any questions. Thank you.